जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन। यमुना तीर वनचारी। यमुना तीर वनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद। श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Radhe. Jai Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva. Jai Nrsimha Dev, Jaya Nrsimha Dev, Nrsimha Dev, Jaya Nrsimha Dev. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivrajakaacharya Ashtotara Sata His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ashta Sakhi Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Pancha Tattva Ki Jai Shri Prahlad Shri Nrsimha Dev Ki Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 3. Gajendra's Prayers of Surrender, Text 29. Na ayam veda svam atmanam yad shaktya aham dhiya hatam tam duratyaya mahatmyam bhagavantam itaha asmi aham. Nayam vedasvamatmanam yat shaktyaham dhiyahatam tam duratyaya mahatmyam bhagavantam itosmyaham. Nayam vedasvamatmanam yat shaktyaham dhiyahatam tam duratyaya mahatmyam bhagavantam itosmyaham. Nayam vedasvamatmanam yat shaktyaham dhiyahatam tam duratyaya mahatmyam bhagavantam itosmyaham. Nayam vedasvamatmanam dhiyahatam duratyaya mahatmyam bhagavantam itosmyaham. Yahasmatmanam dhiyahatam tam duratyaya mahatmyam tam itosmyaham. Nayam vedasvamatmanam satyaham dhiyahatam tam duratyaya mahatmyam bhagavantam itosmyaham. Tam tam duratyaya bhagavantam. Mataji's, please. Nayam vedasvamatmanam yatyaham dhiyahatam tam duratyaya mahatmyam bhagavantam itosmyaham. Nayam vedasvamatmanam mahatmyam itosmyaham. Nayam vedasvamatmanam yat shaktyaham dhiyahatam tam duratyaya mahatmyam bhagavantam itosmyaham. Na, not. Ayam, people in general. Veda, no. Svam, own. Atmanam, identity. Yat Shaktya, by whose influence. Aham, I am independent. Dhiya, by this intelligence. Hatam, defeated or covered. Tam, unto him. Duratyaya, difficult to understand. Mahatmyam, whose glories. Bhagavantam, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Itaha, taking shelter. Asmi aham, I am. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose illusory energy the Jiva, who is part and parcel of God, forgets his real identity because of the bodily concept of life. I take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose glories are difficult to understand. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, every living entity, regardless of whether he be human, demigod, animal, bird, bee, or whatever, is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord and the living entity are intimately related like father and son. Unfortunately, because of material contact, the living entity forgets this and wants to enjoy the material world independently according to his plan. This illusion, Maya, is very difficult to surmount. Maya covers the living entity because of his willingness to forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead and make his own plan to enjoy this material world. As long as this contamination continues, the conditioned soul will be unable to understand his real identity and will perpetually continue under illusion, life after life. Ato griha kshetra sutapta vittair janasya mohoyam aham mameti. Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, Text 8. As long as the living entity is not enlightened so that he may understand his real position, he will be attracted to materialistic life, to house, country, or field, or to society, sons, family, community, bank balance, and so on. Covered by all this, he will continue to think, I am this body, and everything related to this body is mine. This materialistic conception of life is extremely difficult to surmount, but one who surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as did Gajendra, the king of the elephants, comes to enlightenment on the Brahman platform. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. One who is transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed toward all living entities. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Bhagavad Gita, Chapter 18, Text 54. Since a devotee is completely on the Brahman platform, he is not jealous of any other living entity. Samah sarveshu bhuteshu. Om ajnana timirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurun militam yena तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादां सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लङ्घायते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरून् दीनतारिणं। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदान्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामने गौरत्विषे नमः। पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम्। आराध्यो भगवान् व्रजेशतनयस्तद्धाम वृन्दावनम्। रम्या काचिदुपासना व्रजवधू वर्गेण या कल्पिता। श्रीमद्भागवतं प्रमाणममलं प्रेमापुमर्थो महान्। श्रीचैतन्यमहाप्रभोर्मतमिदं तत्रादरः न परः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. I'm very happy to be back in Sri Mayapur Dham amongst all of you wonderful devotees, and feel very privileged and honored to have the fortune of speaking something about Krishna in this August assembly. The passage being discussed these days is Gajendra's prayers of surrender. These prayers are very famous and are often used as an example of how a devotee should always recite prayers. Srila Prabhupada says at one time in one place that we should habitually recite prayers like this, so that at the time of death or even in any difficult situation, we will be able to remember them, as Gajendra did in this crisis situation. And Srila Prabhupada offers a word of consolation. Even if you don't remember any other prayers, you at least remember the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That's also a prayer. For those who feel discouraged that they can't remember too many Sanskrit prayers, never mind, chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And let that be something that becomes part of our existence and consciousness to such a degree that every time there is any kind of situation, a happy situation, a crisis situation, we always think of Krishna and chant Hare Krishna. You'll get plenty of opportunities during the journey from Calcutta to Mayapur to test and practice this. When you will have very narrow misses, and then your heart will be in your mouth and you'll have to chant Krishna. The theme of this verse and the purport is that the jiva forgets his identity due to the influence of the illusory energy, Maya. It's a standard theme in Srila Prabhupada's teachings, a most fundamental theme, without understanding which there is no question of knowing the purpose of life. Everything begins, after all, by understanding who I am, one's own identity. And because it is such a fundamental topic, we will find this discussed at numerous places in the scriptures. So I will select one such passage, which is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings to Sri Sanatana Goswami. Amongst Gaudiya Vaishnavas, this is called Sanatana Shiksha, as Mahaprabhu's teachings to Rupa Goswami is called Rupa Shiksha. So in Sanatana Shiksha, Mahaprabhu speaks of many different topics, and one of them is about the identity of the jiva. He begins by saying how the jiva is so foolish, the conditioned jiva. He had a choice to either live in the spiritual world in full bliss or to come to this material world. But now he is suffering the threefold miseries under the influence of avidya or ignorance. And the conditioned entities in this world are proportionately freed from the influence of the illusory energy in different conditions in life. We can understand this, for example, by considering the various species of life, which are essentially different states of consciousness or different degrees of covering of the consciousness of the soul in terms of the three modes of material nature. The trees and plants, for example, they also have jivas, but the consciousness is very densely covered by the mode of ignorance. And gradually, as the species evolve up the hierarchy, not in the Darwinian sense, but in the sense of the species becoming more in tune with the mode of goodness, then the covering becomes less and less dense. And ultimately you have within the material world those who are completely self-realized, for whom the covering of Maya has been completely removed. So therefore one sees varieties of living entities in this material world who represent different stages of the covering of the original consciousness of the jiva by avidya or Maya. So Mahaprabhu says, Krishna bhuli she jiv anadi bahir mukha ataiva maya tare daye sansara sukha. From time immemorial, anadi. Anadi refers to that which has no beginning. Adi means beginning, anadi means that which has no beginning. From time immemorial, the jiva has forgotten Krishna. Krishna bhuli she jiva, anadi bahirmukha. Bahirmukha means to be enamored by the external energy of the Lord. And being so enamored, the Maya Shakti of the Lord therefore inflicts upon the conditioned living entity all the miseries of this material world. Tare daye sansara dukkha. And then Mahaprabhu goes on to say that because of Maya, the living entity in ignorance sometimes goes up to the heavenly planets. Kabhu swarga uthaye, kabhu narake dubaye. Sometimes the living entity is elevated to the heavenly planets, sometimes is brought down to the hellish planets, Dande jane raja jano nodite chubai. Just as a king in the olden days that happened, they would punish a criminal by dunking him in the water and then removing him for a while, again dunking him and so on. Dandya jane. Danda means punishment. Dandya means one who is deserving of punishment, meaning a criminal. So just as Raja Jane, just as the kings in the old days would punish criminals by nodite chubai, by dunking him in the water and removing him, so also Maya punishes the living entity in this material world. Sometimes by putting him in hell, sometimes in heaven, sometimes in hell, sometimes in heaven. So this goes on. Consider for a moment the condition of the person who is being punished by the king like this. When the criminal is inside the water, he has to hold his breath. And the soldiers of the king will make sure that the criminal is under the water till the very, very last second. So the criminal is really struggling to hold his breath. As time passes, every microsecond becomes very, very painful. And somehow he thinks, I'm going to die. This is the end of me. And just at that very moment, the soldier lifts him up again. And he's able to breathe fresh air. And those moments of being able to breathe are like sheer ecstasy. Actually, it's not ecstasy. It is just the normal condition of the human being to be able to breathe. But because he has been deprived of the facility of breathing for some time, now even the normal condition or a subnormal condition appears to be ecstasy. So the jiva is sometimes thrown or flung by Maya into the hellish planets, where he suffers terrible pains, unimaginable pains. And then when the same jiva comes to earth, he thinks, oh, this is ecstasy. Now we can enjoy so many types of enjoyments here in this world. And then he goes to the heavenly planets. My word, what enjoyments there! In front of which the pleasures of the earth seem to be like, just ordinary playthings of children. The Nandana Kanan and the gardens of Indra, the Apsaras. Why do you think these jihadis are doing this? Anyway, maybe I shouldn't say all that. The kind of pleasures you can get there. Unimaginable. You can't think of such things on earth. So then hell, heaven. This whole Ferris wheel is going on. And this is under the influence of Maya. So, Kobhu swarge uthai, Kobhu narake dubai. This is the job of Maya. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport in one of these verses that Maya's business is to make the jiva forgetful of his relationship with Krishna. And therefore, under the influence of Maya, the entity forgets his real identity as the spirit soul. So the living entity is so caught up with his contemporary situation, whatever the situation now, whether it's happy or it's miserable, he cannot think beyond that temporary current situation. He cannot reflect on what his real identity is. And then Mahaprabhu quotes a very important verse from the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is a verse that has been spoken by the Nava Yogendras to Maharaj Nimi. And this appears several times in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and also is quoted often by Srila Prabhupada. Bhayam dvitiya bhiniveshatah syad ishad apetasya viparyayo smritihi tan mayayatam buddha abhajetam bhakte kayesham guru devatatma. The meaning of this verse is that the conditioned living entity apetasya is absorbed in, Abhivineshataha means to be absorbed. Is absorbed in something dvitiya, something other than Isha or the Lord, which is Maya. So when the conditioned living entity becomes absorbed in something other than Krishna, which is Maya, Syad, then something develops. What develops? Bhayam, fear. Fear is the fundamental emotion that exists in this material world. And with that come everything else. So this, what is the reason for this? Tan Mayaya. It is because of Maya. Ataha, therefore, Buddha, one who is intelligence, abhajatam, must worship. It is the imperative sense that is used here. So any intelligent person therefore must worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhaktya, by devotional service. Ekasha means one-pointedly, without dilution of karma and jnana and so on. Isham, for the Supreme Lord. And consider the Supreme Lord to be his Guru, his worshipable Lord and the Super Soul. So this is the duty of every intelligent human being who does not want to be afflicted by the miseries of this world. And in this context, I just want to mention a topic that seems to be baffling philosophers from time immemorial, especially in the Western world. In the Time magazine, the famous Time magazine, there were, I remember one many years ago, a cover story on the problem of evil. And since then, many other articles appear in different periodicals and newspapers in the mundane world on this topic. They are not able to understand why evil exists. And Thomas Aquinas, he has acknowledged that actually the existence of evil is the strongest argument against the existence of God. But this is because people understand philosophy from the point of view of the Abrahamic religions, from the Judeo-Christian tradition. And they think that if God is really merciful, then there should not be any evil happening in this world. People should not be suffering. So one analyst, he wrote an article which is often quoted by many other people. He said there are three propositions. God is all-powerful. That's the first one. Second, God is all good. That's the second proposition. And third is, terrible things happen in this world. Three things. So he says, all three together cannot happen simultaneous. Take your pick, choose any two. That's the theory. What does it mean? It means, first of all, we all know that terrible things happen in the world. So that's a certain fact. That's something we all know, we all experience. So we have to choose any one of the other two. Either God is all good, but then He's not all powerful. Because He's all good, He wants everybody's welfare, but He's helpless because He's not all powerful. Therefore, bad things happen to good people. Therefore, evil exists in this world. If you choose God is all powerful, then the only recourse is to accept that God is not all good. He's quite evil Himself. And therefore, He allows evil to happen to everybody in this world. So this kind of argument goes on. Total confusion. The problem really is that in the Judeo-Christian tradition, they accept evil as Satan. And Satan is some kind of a competitor to God. That is the problem. And therefore, there is a battle going on between Satan and God. So in some sense we may think it's like Maya, but there's a difference, and I'll come to it in a few moments. But how would we respond to this problem of evil? What is our philosophical understanding? It's quite simple, really. Because we have an understanding of karma, we have an understanding of the jiva, and we have an understanding of maya. So with these three concepts together, it's very easy for us to understand why evil exists in this world. Although we feel for those who are suffering, we feel very strongly that evil happens, we want to counteract it, but the fundamental theology behind it is that we have turned our back to Krishna. In the verse that we quoted from Nava-yogendras, the verse says, Viparyayo asmritihi. Asmritihi means to forget Krishna. Viparyayaha means a reversal. So Srila Prabhupada translates that as being that Jiva experiences a reversal of position. From being a servant of Krishna constitutionally, he now imagines himself to be a competitor of Krishna. And because of this, he is placed into fear, and all sorts of negativities come about because of this turning the back, so to speak, to Krishna. Let me ask you a question. In this world, there is sunlight. Sunlight is everywhere. So why is there darkness in the sunlight? Even in the presence of the sun, why is there night? Why is there darkness? Very important question. And every school child now knows the reason. When the earth is facing away from the sun, then the other side there is night. The side that is facing the sun has light. So even though the sunlight is there, but because the earth is putting its back, so to speak, to the sun, so there is darkness. Let's say we are standing in the sunlight. When we are facing the sun, it's all light. If I turn my back to the sun, I see the shadow in front of me. That's darkness. So despite me standing in the sunshine, there is darkness. In other words, despite the presence of God, everywhere there is evil. Because those people who are evil because they are showing their back to God. Meaning they are disobeying the instructions of God. They want to be rebellious and independent of God. That is the reason evil exists in this world. Coming now to the question of Satan and Maya. Satan is a competitor of God, but Maya is not. Both tempt the conditioned living entity. Satan also tempts the entity to do wrong things, to do evil acts, and so does Maya. But Maya is not a competitor of Krishna. Maya is a servant of Krishna. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto, Shukadev Goswami speaks about Vyasadev's meditation. He says, Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite male apashyat purusham purnam mayam chatad apashrayam. He says Vyasadeva was sitting absorbed in deep meditation, in Bhakti yoga meditation. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite amale, and his consciousness was completely cleansed of all contamination. And at that time, apashyat purusham purnam, he saw apashyat, the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the Lord was not alone. Mayam chatad, he was along with Maya. Apashrayam, the word apashrayam means under the control of. So Vyasadev's vision was of Krishna along with Maya. And he could see that Maya was always in the control of Krishna. So Maya is performing Krishna's will, whereas Satan is not performing the will of God as far as I can understand. So this is the difference. So the role that Maya plays may seem to be similar to Satan, but there is a fundamental difference here. Maya is working according to the overall purposes of Krishna. So anyway, we'll come back to the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says, Sadhu Shastra Kripa Jodi Krishnonmukha hoy, She Jiva Nistare Maya Tahare Chadaye. Somehow, Sadhu Shastra Kripaye, by the mercy of the sadhus and the Shastra, if a certain living entity becomes Krishna conscious, becomes favorable to Krishna, Krishna Unmukha hoy, now starts facing Krishna, having previously turned his back to Krishna, then what happens? Shei Jiva Nistore. That Jiva becomes liberated. Maya Tahare Chadaye. Maya now liberates or leaves that particular living entity. Maya's grasp on that living entity is now loosened. And then Mahaprabhu quotes the famous verse from Bhagavad Gita, Daivi hi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mam evaya prapadyante mayam esham tarantite. This Maya is impossible to surmount, to pass. But for one who surrenders to me, Krishna says, it is very easy to cross over. And then Mahaprabhu goes on to say, Maya mugdha jivar nahi swatah Krishna gyan, jivere kripaye koila Krishna Veda Purana. Maya mugdha jiva. Mugdha means enchanted or captivated. So that jiva who has been captivated or enchanted by Maya cannot of his own accord become Krishna conscious. Nahi swatah Krishna gyan. But out of mercy, Jivir Kripai, Krishna has made the Vedas and the Puranas and all the scriptures, like the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, etc. And taking shelter of the sadhus and of the Shastra, the conditioned living entity can come out of the state of ignorance and become established in his true identity as the eternal spirit soul and the servant of Krishna. Yaya sammohito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam paropi manute nartham yat kritam chapi padyate. So the Bhagavatam also says, in this way the jiva, who is actually transcendental, comes under the influence of the illusory energy and imagines himself to be a product of Maya. Whereas actually he has nothing to do with Maya. He is transcendentally situated. So by taking shelter of the sadhus and scriptures, we become re-established in our original identity. Srila Prabhupada also gives very nice purports. We don't have time to discuss the essential points of those purports. I'll just conclude with two examples from the Nectar of Devotion. One is from the Garuda Purana, where Srila Rupa Goswami compares the living entity under the clutches of Maya to a person who is unconscious because of being bitten by a snake. And the two conditions are similar because both are unconscious and both can be revived to their normal position by the chanting of mantras. Now, in numerous places you will read about how you can cure a person of snake bite by chanting certain mantras. So similarly, the person who is in Maya is not conscious of Krishna, so as good as dead. And he can be revived by chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. There is a story, a personal experience which I never tire of telling, so I'll say it one more time. One time I was in a village in the state of Uttar Pradesh in India. I sometimes go there for preaching once in a year or two. And in this village there is a Hanuman temple. So they gave me a room to stay. It's a very simple room in the premises of the Hanuman temple. Just the temple and this little room. So I arrived and I was there, just about went to bed at night. And very soon there was a huge commotion outside. I could hear a lady screaming like anything. And I woke up and being very alarmed, I rushed out to see what had happened. And there were lots of people there and they were carrying a lady and she was howling in pain. And I asked, what happened? She said she is bitten by a snake. You see, it was a harvesting season and the crops are high and there are snakes and you can't see them. So when people go out into the fields or walk out, sometimes there is a risk of the snakes coming in and biting. So it seemed it was a very common occurrence. So I said, why have you brought her here, to get the mercy of Hanuman? She said, no. And I said, what's the reason? He said, yes, Hanuman, okay, but there's the healer who's going to come very shortly, the village healer. So I said, all right, let me see. So then comes along a young man, and he takes the branches from a neem tree, I think it was a neem tree, and then he starts beating that lady, with that, mildly, and he starts chanting some mantras. And I tried to inch closer to him to try to figure out what mantras he was chanting. His pronunciation wasn't good, and I wasn't able to figure out much, but I could sense that this was a prayer to Durga or to Kali. This much I could somewhat sense. And then within 15 minutes, this lady was up and she walked out of the temple. And I wasn't sure. So I said, let me see. And that night there were a couple of other people who came in like that. Somebody bitten by a scorpion, somebody bitten by a snake. And this man was called. He was on call. And he was chanting these mantras and these people were being revived. So far I'd only read it in Prabhupada's books. And this was the first time I actually saw it, as they say, with my own eyes. And then I also saw this man furiously chanting mantras on a mobile phone. And then afterwards I asked him, what were you doing on the phone? He said there was another patient who was bitten by a snake in the state of Bihar, somewhere else. And I was doing that. I said, wow, does it work? He said, yes, it works. So anyway, I'm not vouching for snake healers. I'm not here marketing their case. But I'm just telling you what I saw. And it just verified what's being said by Prabhupada and in the Shastra also, that indeed it is possible to get rid of the poison of snake bite in people who are unconscious in a comatose condition. So similarly, Srila Prabhupada explains that the conditioned living entity is under the grips of Maya and becomes as good as unconscious. But by transcendental sound vibration of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and hearing the pastimes and messages of the Lord, one can be awakened to real consciousness, which is Krishna consciousness. Another example in the Nectar of Devotion that Srila Prabhupada gives is of a man who is under the spell of some mental disease, some kind of madness. And he has to go to a psychiatrist who then prescribes a certain kind of therapy and the person comes back to normal state of mind. Similarly, being under the influence of Maya, Srila Prabhupada says, is a kind of madness. And therefore, the principles of sadhana bhakti are like the prescription given by a psychiatrist to cure us of the madness that we have under the influence of the illusory energy. So we follow sadhana bhakti, the principles of hearing and chanting about Krishna, worshipping the deities and so on and so forth, as taught to us by Srila Prabhupada. Then we can also overcome this madness and be situated in our original constitutional position of Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much. And just a parting comment on another note is that generally we find that in our Bhagavatam classes, it has become common practice for devotees to simply get up and walk out of the class in between the class. Actually, it's not the right etiquette to do so. Unless there is some emergency, some urgent seva, or unless the speaker goes beyond the time allotted for the class. But in general, we see it's become a kind of a habit, just even 10 minutes into the class, and people just get up and walk out. It's actually an offense against the Bhagavatam because the Bhagavatam is being discussed. I remember one sannyasi saying that he was in London and there was a boat yatra. Devotees had gone on a yatra on the river Thames and they were all in the boat and there was kirtan and lecture. And he said, this was the only lecture I've given in which nobody walked out of the class. So it's just a matter of etiquette and culture that we should try, to sit. And if at all we know that we have to leave, it's better to sit near the door so we can slip out unnoticed. Otherwise, getting up and walking out, it disturbs the speaker's flow of thought. It disturbs the attention of the hearers. And in general, it's not a good practice. So pardon me if I've said anything wrong or hurt anybody's feelings, but it's just the standard practice I think we need to establish in our temples. Okay, we have just 2 or 3 minutes. If anyone has any comments or any questions. Okay, Ekalavya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you. My question is, if Krishna loves us, why does he make us suffer to turn away from Maya, repulsed, and turn towards him? Why does he not turn up the intensity of his sweetness and attraction to impel us strongly to turn towards him because of the great, extraordinary pleasure we feel when we do so?
Very thoughtfully framed, precisely framed, almost like a legal document. Good. Questions should be very thoughtfully framed. You see, this is a whole science, and we learn this in Krishna consciousness. Perfect questions, well, I can't say perfect answers for myself, but at least perfect questions. If you look at the way the questions are asked in the Srimad Bhagavatam, they are so thoughtful. So when we ask a question, we should think about what we ask. It shouldn't be a rambling question all over the place. It should be very focused, specific, and pertaining to the topic of the class. So that was a perfect question. I'll try to give a perfect answer in respect to what I've learned from Srila Prabhupada's teachings. And the answer is simply, it is love. Love happens voluntarily, not by force. And therefore, the jiva needs independence, partially, minute independence. That independence is crucial because there is no meaning to love that is forced. Krishna is turning on his sweetness. He's doing it all the time, which is why he comes to Vrindavan and displays these pastimes. But despite turning on the switch, the knob of his sweetness to the maximum, still the conditioned living entity will not get attracted to Krishna. Why not? It's impossible that the living entity doesn't get attracted to Krishna. And there's only one reason for the living entity not being attracted to the sweetness of Krishna, and that is Krishna. Because Krishna's Maya Shakti prevents that from happening, because the living entity does not want to relish the sweetness of Krishna. So Krishna doesn't want to force that living entity to relish that sweetness. So he has placed the living entity in the material world, which is full of suffering, so that the jiva voluntarily comes to his senses and realizes, yes, I should now turn to Krishna. Krishna is giving all the possible opportunities. Jivere kripa koila, Krishna Veda Puran, right? He has given us the scriptures. Sadhu Shastra kripa, he has given us the devotees. He has given us the deities, the holy name. Unlimited facility exists. But the jiva is not interested. Therefore Krishna doesn't force. But because it is an unnatural condition, there has to be something that motivates the jiva to realize this is not where I should be. For example, a very simple example. We have the sensation of pain in the body. When you put your finger in the fire, there is a burning sensation. And because of the burning sensation, we quickly remove the finger from the fire. Imagine if there was no such burning sensation, and we were unaware that our finger was in the fire, what would happen? The finger would have been consumed by the fire. And we realize, oh, I've lost my finger. So the burning sensation is a boon because it protects me from losing my whole finger. The moment I experience that sensation, I pull away the finger. So similarly, pain and suffering exist in this world as a gift of Krishna to remind us this is not where I should be. Get away from here. Go back to Krishna. So that's the reason why Krishna, he puts the devotees under the influence of Maya. But with the moment they realize I want to surrender to Krishna, then he gives all the facility for that. Okay, so we have crossed the time. It's 9 o'clock. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna.